All right, so this is a long video, so I'm going to try to go kind of quickly. All right, so this first part, let's label the parts of a fraction. So we have this division bar here. Okay, what comes on top of the division bar? It's called the numerator. Okay, so that should just be a review. On the top is the numerator. On the bottom is the denominator. And when we're adding or subtracting fractions, we need something called common denominators. So that's when the numbers in the denominators are the same, right? Common means same or similar, denominators, okay? So the numbers in the denominators, are the same. So looking at these examples, are there common denominators in this problem? Yes, right? They're both 6. So yes, so we don't need to do anything to those ones. Are there common denominators over here? Hopefully you're saying no. So what would a common denominator be between these two numbers? What would a common denominator be? Like, how can we get them to be the same number? So think about multiples of 9 and 7. Okay. So normally if it was like 4 and 6, we could go to 12. But these are some pretty larger numbers, so I'm just going to multiply them together. What is 7 times 9? 7 times 9 is 63. So we're going to change both of these to have a denominator of 63. And how do I do that? Well, I do 7 times 9. What I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. So it's 9 times 3. 27. So 3 7s becomes 27 63rds. Okay? And 9 times what gives us 63? 9 times 7. Again, what we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. So 9 times 7, 63. That checks out. 5 times 7 is 35. Okay, now do we have common denominators? Yes. All right, so let's start adding and subtracting fractions. So here's a little song part over here, and that kind of walks you through the steps. If adding or subtracting is your aim, the bottom numbers must be the same. Okay, so what that means is that you have to have common denominators. So check for common denominators. So check for common denominators. If you don't have them, make them. If none, change. Okay. Change the bottom using multiply or divide, but the same to the top must be applied, right? So we said that what you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So you have to make sure that you're doing the same thing to both sides. And then we have to add or subtract. So now that we have common denominators, we add / subtract just the numerators. Our denominator stays the same. And don't forget to simplify before it's time to say goodbye. So we never want an improper fraction, and we never want something that's not fully simplified. So our last step is to simplify. All right. Let's do these first couple examples together. So I'm going to do the first row, and you're going to do the second set, okay? All right, so looking at this first one, just kidding, that's not how it's going to work. Looking at this first one, do they have common denominators? Are these denominators the same? Yes. So my next step is to add or subtract the numerator. So I kind of make a little heart around here so I know what I'm doing. So I'm doing 6 plus 5. What is 6 plus 5? 6 plus 5 is 11. You bring the denominator along for the ride. Is 11/8 the most simplified version? Hopefully you're saying no. 8. So think about this as if I have 11 dots here. If I have 11 dots, I want to put them into groups of 8 because there's an 8 in the denominator. So I do 2, 4, 6, 8. So I can find one group. So that means my answer is going to be a mixed number. So I have a big 1. And then how many dots are left over? There's 3 out of 8 left over. So now my answer is 1 3/8. Okay. Think you want to try B? So pause the video and try B for me. All right, so real quick walkthrough. Common denominators, yes. We do 11 minus 3 is 8/12. That can be simplified. And we always want to simplify by the biggest number. So it can be simplified by 4. So what's 8 divided by 4? 2. What's 12 divided by 4? 3. So we want to simplify it by the biggest number possible. If you did it by 2, just know that you have to divide it again by 2. So make sure you simplify it as much as possible. All right, C. C is 4/6 minus a negative 2/6. So remember with subtraction like this, we do keep, change, change. Keep, change, change. Keep, change, change. So now we're really adding a positive, okay? So now we really have common denominators. So we know our denominator is going to be 6. And now we just add the numerators. 4 plus 2 is 6. What does 6/6 simplify to? 1, hopefully you said. All right. Let's jump down to the next example. All right. So example A. Let's check, are our denominators the same? Are our denominators the same? No. So we have to find common denominators. So what's a number that 4 and 8 could be? What are multiples of 4 and 8 that are the same? Hopefully you're thinking 4 can go into 8, 8 can go into 8. So my multiples, or my common denominator, is 8. Okay, so my common denominator is 8. So this was a 4. How do we go from 4 to 8? 4 times what gives me 8? 4 times 2 gives me 8. And what do I do to the bottom? I have to do to the top. So now what's 3 times 2? 6. We bring our plus sign down. This is already an 8, so do I have to do anything to this half? No, I just bring the 5 down. And now it's just like before. Now we have common denominators. We add our numerators. We get 11/8, which, as we did up there, equals 1 3/8. All right. I'm going to do one more with you, okay? Just to kind of give you a good review of finding common denominators. Okay. So we have 10 and 5. Are those the same? No, hopefully you're saying. So we have to find our common denominators. So think about multiples of 10 and 5. So multiples of 10, 10, 20, 30, 40. Okay. Multiples of 5, 5, 10, 15, 20. Okay. Hopefully you noticed 5, 10. So that our common denominator is going to be 10. So do I have to change 8/10 at all? No, because our denominator is already 10, so we leave him 8/10. Always bring your subtraction sign down. 5 times what is going to give me 10? 5 times 2 gives me 10. What do I do to the bottom? I have to do to the top. So what's 2 times 2? Hopefully you said 4. And now it's just our basic 8 minus 4 is 4. Bring your denominator along for the ride. 4/10 can be simplified. 2 can go into both 4 and 10. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. All right, I want you to try C and see if you could do D. D is going to be tricky, but I want you to try both, C and D. All right, so hopefully for C, you got -112. And for D, you got -1 4/7. Okay, so let's talk about C first. So you had to get a common denominator of 12. If you got a common denominator of 24, that's okay. Just make sure you simplify at the end. Okay, so, and remember, unlike other examples, we have to include that negative in here. So it's -10 plus 9. And that's how we get -1. Okay, so D. D might have been a little confusing because it had that -1 there. But just like in example C up top, we changed 6/6 to being 1. And you might be thinking, but why did I do 7/7? Because of this denominator here. This denominator is a 7. And we want to find common denominators. So 7/7 is equal to 1, right? So again, I did 7 because we want common denominators. And I changed this -1 to be -7/7. And then we did keep, change. So now we have -7 plus -4. And that's how I got -11. And then remember, we can't have improper fractions, so we have to group them or make them into mixed numbers. So if we do 11 dots, we can do one group of 7, and we'll have 4 left over. Okay, so down here is just a little table here in case our steps don't make sense up here. Okay, so common denominators, yes. Here's the work. No. Okay. Let's go to the next half. The next half is mixed numbers. Okay. If I were you, I might take a 5-minute break or something in between, because we have about another 10 minutes left in the lesson. So if you need a break, please take one. All right. So let's talk about our steps first. Okay, so steps to converting or steps to adding or subtracting mixed numbers. So the first thing we want to do is convert mixed numbers to improper fractions. So we want to convert mixed numbers to improper fractions. Okay. Next thing we want to do is always find our common denominators. So we want to get common denominators. Okay. And then, just like before, once we have common denominators, we add or subtract our numerators. And then our last step is to always simplify. Last step is always to simplify. All right, so let's think. Do you remember how to change a mixed number into an improper fraction? Some of you are saying, I remember doing that, but I just can't remember how to do it. And that's okay. All right, so let's review it. So we have a mixed number here, right? So we have 2 and 5/6. So we take our denominator and multiply it by our whole number. So now we do 6 times 2. And that's going to give us 12. And then we add our numerator. So what's 12 plus 5? 12 plus 5 is 17. And our denominator stays the same. So 2 and 5/6 is really 17/6. Okay, so that's always our first step now, is to change these to improper fractions. Okay, so let's start by looking at example A. Okay, example 3, letter A. Practice changing these into mixed numbers. Practice changing these mixed numbers into improper fractions. So we have 9 times 2 is 18. 18 plus 4 is 22/9. Bring your addition sign down. 9 times 1 is 9. Plus 2 is 11/9. So now this should look familiar. We have common denominators. So all you need to do is add your numerators. 22 plus 11 is 33/9. So obviously I'm not going to draw out 33 dots. So we want to figure out, this is when your multiplication facts come into play. How many times does 9 go into 33? So the closest 9 could get is 27 or 36, right? We never want to go over the number, so we go down. So 9 times 3 is 27. So my whole number is 3. And then we have 27 pieces that we're grouping. So how many are left out of the 33 if we're grouping 27 together? So in your head, you should be doing 33 minus 27. And when you do that, you should get 5 and out of 9 left. Okay. All right, so this next one requires some multiplication. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't. So make sure you do some work on the side here. I want you to try the next 2 examples on your own. So try B and C on your own for me. All right, so B was pretty intensive or extensive. Okay, so you had to do 12 times 8, which hopefully you got 96, plus 7 gave us 103/12. Okay, next, 5 times 12 is 60. 60 plus 5 is 65. So now we have 103/12 minus 65/12. Okay, when you do 103 minus 65, you get 38. So now we have 38/12. How many times does 12 go into 38? Well, it goes 3 times, and 12 times 3 is 36. So we'll have 2 left over, but 2/12 isn't simplified. Both of those can be simplified by 2. So that really gives us 3 1/6. Next one, C, was a little bit more straightforward, except there was a negative thrown in. So that changes to negative 17/5, and 7 3/5 turns into 38/5. Add them, okay, 38 or negative 17 plus 38. Really, you subtract, so you should get positive 21/5. And then 5 goes into 21 4 times at 20, and then there'll be 1 left over. Okay, so let's look at example 4. Okay, a couple of these are a little easy. Like A is easy because we have a mixed number and a whole number, and the key part here is that we're adding. Okay, we're adding. What's 4 3/4 plus 2? So all I do is, since this doesn't have a fraction, all I have to do is add these. What's 4 plus 2? 6. 3/4 plus nothing is 3/4. Okay. That doesn't work for B though, because B is subtraction. So it really only works for addition. Subtraction's kind of a whole different ballgame. So just like before, when we had a whole number, we made it into a common denominator, but we did it with 1. 1 was 6/6, right? So we're going to borrow from this 9. We're going to take 1 away from that 9 and make it a 6 over 6. Why a 6? Because of this denominator over here. And since we borrowed 1 from the 9 to make it a 6 over 6, our mixed number becomes an 8 now. Okay? And then we have 1 and 4/6. So because we have common denominators here, we can simply subtract our whole numbers. What's 8 minus 1? 8 minus 1 is 7. And then we could do 6/6 minus 4/6. What's 6 minus 4? 2/6. Is 2/6 simplified? No, you have to divide them both by 2. So our real answer is 7 1/3. Okay. See if you could try letter C. Okay, so see if you could do C. Okay, so the only thing about C is, remember, this is a -5. So this really is a -6 in the numerator. Okay. So it wouldn't be -1 because the whole thing's negative, but you still should do 6 minus 5. Okay. So down here, for example, 5, I want you to do those on your own. So I want you to do those 3. Okay. Just kidding. Yeah, do all 3. All right, so pause the video, do all 3, check your answers when you're done. All right, so make sure you're checking your answers. A should be 3 7/20. B should be -4 2/15. And C should be 7/30. So if you didn't get those answers, check your work. I have all of mine written out there. Your homework's at the bottom here, so make sure you're checking your work and being diligent.